Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it's my privilege to highlight my creative journey and extract the various lessons that I'm learning along the way, as well as the ones that I'm applying to those obstacles. So, first off, it's been a while since I posted a video, about a week. Normally I do one every day. And that was because last week I decided to take just time off and sort of relax, kind of get back to basics. It's a thing that I've talked about in the past, and it's ingrained in a number of lessons where if something's not working for you, get back to the basics. And so for me, I just wanted to kind of take things off my plate and really just reset. Because they were, between the news cycles and kind of things just left and right, I just wanted to not deal with the things that I didn't need to deal with. And so, while I enjoy doing, whether it be the vlog or more specifically the lessons throughout the week that I teach, in these episodes, I do enjoy that, but it was just a thing that, it was one too many in terms of what I wanted to do, right? I just kind of wanted to almost essentially kind of go off social media and online, if you will. And also just my phone in general, texts and phone calls. Now, did that work out fully? No. It certainly, and there was, one of the reasons why I wanted to do it was because there's just kind of so much happening, and certainly I don't know if this, in spite of my best efforts, because I don't know if I put like my best efforts forward in my intention to get off the grid, if you will, but there was just so much happening that I kind of snuck back in, if you will, and checked in on the news and got messages from my friends and things like that. And not that I'm upset, but it did help in general just to kind of be a little bit more mindful. And one of the things that I tracked for myself was, okay, what makes me feel good and what doesn't? And I just wanted to kind of really be in control of the things going on in my life, right? And so I even got down to basics, okay? Like, starting off in the morning and walking dogs and getting a couple things done before I even check an email is good, right? And kind of just various things of this nature. So it was almost kind of scientific in that way. Like I played around with, kind of mixing things up, and it was like, does this make me feel better or worse? And, so I tried out various things, and not that I'm in a mode where I perfected it and I'll continue to tinker, but overall I kind of know the things that are better for me versus the ones that are not. And so I have an overall direction, if you will. One of the things that really helped last week, and I'm going to continue moving forward, is the Thrive app. So Ariana Huffington, she, ever since the HuffPost, she's been kind of very much an advocate of sleep and the importance of sleep. And as part of that, she's been an advocate of kind of mindfulness and us being a little bit more present and focused and so forth. And so she helped develop this app called Thrive. And what it does ultimately, it just kind of it just turns off your phone essentially for you, in the sense that you pick a designated time. It can be a couple of minutes or a couple hours, whatever you want. And for that duration of time, you don't get to use your phone, right? You don't get to check messages or phone calls. And of course, you can put in like emergency numbers that can contact you if necessary. You can take pictures with your phone. One of the things, like we often use our phone for memories, right? For prosperity's sake. And so, the app does allow you to take photos even in this mode. And one of the things that you can do is like, you can turn it like where you can override, the time that you set, or you can say like, no, I don't want to be able to touch it. And so for my own kind of just benefit, if you will, I selected to make sure that I couldn't override it. So that way, yeah, I wouldn't self-sabotage myself even if I wanted to, right? So it took away any sort of notion of willpower. It was outside of my hands, and I just had to kind of be. And overall, it worked well for me. I'd set it for a couple hours while doing work, and it helped. It helped me get the work done faster. It helped me focus on the work and things of that nature. So it's really a benefit, and I will continue to use it. And I highly suggest it for you. Works on iOS, works on Android. So check it out. That's the Thrive app. One of the big things that I wanted to focus on last week, and part of kind of taking time off from doing episodes, was the how-to book on the making of my first feature film called Idol. And the way I've been going about this book is I've been recording I outlined the chapters of what I want the book to be, and I'm essentially dictating the chapters into a law of exactly this one, and just kind of taking it that way, and then I'm transcribing the recordings into text, and once I have everything dictated, then I will start to editorialize all of that. But it's just an easy, simple way to kind of walk down memory lane and also just give the lessons that way. So that was one of my big focuses last week, was to really knock out a couple chapters, if you will. And the good news is I finished I finished pretty much the early chapters, and I got done with talking about principal photography of the feature film, which is a large chunk of the book. So now, I of course will have to talk about the post-production side, and there's plenty there to talk about, from the editing and score and color and so forth. But I would say 3/5 of the book is quote unquote written. And of course, this is just a draft. There's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done with it, because the way I speak is certainly different than one reads, and so that'll be a process in and of itself. But nonetheless, it's good for those of you that have checked in on various lessons. I'm a big advocate of just keep the ball moving forward. Just keep going forward. Whether it's inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, any progress you can make is fantastic. And so, last week I chose to focus on this, and I made quite good progress. And so I'm going to continue this week, and we'll see kind of how that goes. From there. But it's kind of fun, and one of the reasons I'm highlighting this is because, in a way, it's kind of like a creative cheat, in the sense I know that the book has value, and for me, I always like to express my creativity through whether it's writing through fiction, right? Whether it is in film and creating the movies that I create, or writing them and so forth, right? Or novels. But nonetheless, there is a huge value to writing a how-to book, because I think that, certainly I have benefited from people that have written them. Robert Rodriguez, namely, with Rebel Without a Crew. That book is what inspired me to make my first feature film finally, and the rest is history, so to speak. So I feel it kind of paying it forward by writing such a book, and even though it's not quote unquote pure creationism in that sense, it does get the ball rolling, and and my creative juices flowing, and make me feel productive in that way. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it helps, and part of it is in talking about this past movie, it gets me excited to do another movie. So in a way, it motivates me. So that's kind of been really cool to as a side effect, if you will. The other, as far as the creative stuff that I was focused on last week, I've been talking about it for a couple weeks now. I'm polishing up my novel. And that's an interesting process in and of itself. I've been kind of taking it slowly, very slowly, but, I wanted to really focus last week and just kind of knock out a good chunk. And so I did that. I literally made a goal of like, let me just get through this entire novel and, do all the things that I can do. And so what I focused on was kind of the very simple inline fixes, if you will. I think there's like a total of 6 sort of more major notes that I have to address that, like the way kind of our workflow goes with my editor, Emily, is, we write comments in various sections through Google Docs, and, the few that are left, it's like, hey, this makes sense, but we should also insert a couple of hints to it in, this chapter, and later on in this chapter. So it kind of has a cascading effect where, I have to really kind of think about the larger context of things and then work in the micro of those various chapters. So, I kind of, again, wanted to kind of get the ball rolling and, finish going through the novel itself, do the easy stuff, and now I can, have time and really focus on the big picture stuff and kind of work on those since there's not a lot of them left, So I was working on that, and I've also been working on, writing what will hopefully be my second feature film. Right now, tentative title, although I'm pretty sure it will be the title, is In Search of Sunrise. And it's, I think I finally, like a week or so ago, had a major breakthrough in terms of kind of piecing like a major plot hole, if you will. And so now that I kind of know it, everything else is kind of falling into place a lot more. And so as of right now, I have written of the new draft 22 pages. There's about like 40 pages that I've written in the past that I'm kind of using as just a basis, but with new ideas and so forth. And one of the ways that I kind of write, and especially like with a movie like this that is so like, it has to be very specific in terms of its dialogue, and it also has to be very specific in terms of its visuals. And one of the things that I notice in any writing that I do, it can be script writing, it can be novel writing, is that I kind of either focus on the dialogue or the action, if you will, right? But I can't seem to flow in between both. And so in essence, I'm constantly having to do like passes, right? Where, I'll just type out the dialogue and what they're saying, and then I'll kind of go back, and I see what they're doing in my mind, but in a sense, like they're almost talking too fast in my mind for me to capture everything. So it's like, let me just get the dialogue. And then when I go back, once the dialogue is like there on the page, I can be like, oh, okay, and this is kind of happening, and here's what's kind of going on in the background, here's what someone's looking, here's how someone's reacting. So I start to really then see it from a just purely visual standpoint. So it's almost like their lips, they're just making sounds, but I'm not paying attention. I'm paying attention to their physicality. And so, for better or worse, I don't know. I don't know how other writers kind of think about that, weaving the two together. But for me, that's kind of how it was a realization that I came to about myself. And rather than kind of fight it, I've now embraced it of like, oh, I'll just, each thing I'll kind of do in passes where, whatever. Usually it's dialogue that tends to be the natural thing that flows out of me first. So let me just start with the dialogue. And then, knowing that like I've omitted a pass of action, I'll go back and work on that. So I think that makes the process a little bit easier for me once I, know that is the case. And I think it's, for me now, it's something fun, because now I can give myself those goals. Okay, focus on this, focus on that, and and really strengthen what I'm kind of going for, right? Apart from that, not too much else to report. I did go into a drive-in movie theater again. This time I went with a friend, and I thought maybe going with a friend would be more fun, and it was. I had a great time. We caught up and things of that nature, but maybe it's the fact that we went to see it. So it was a double feature, right? So, and we chose to see Relic and The Lodge, which are both horror movies. And maybe just don't go see horror movies, because like the problem was with horror movies, they're so dark, most of them at least, certainly these ones were, that I couldn't discern anything on the screen at certain points. Like, it was just pure darkness. The contrast on like these drive-in movies, that at least the ones I've been going to, I should say the two that I've been to so far, I've only been twice, is not great, and so it's very tough to see. And I couldn't see and things. So it wasn't enjoyable in that sense. The movies were okay overall. Maybe I would have enjoyed them more had I watched them in a movie theater or even at my house. Overall, I think just kind of in reading about it, like I Wikipedia'd the plot summaries for both afterwards, just to kind of almost refresh my memory of what actually happened and things like. And on the surface, like, I don't think they're fantastic movies, even just reading that, but I think they're worth checking out. Certainly if you're bored at home or something like that, or love horror. I think there's something there with them and worth enjoying. So check it out. I will say, Palm Springs on Hulu. I don't know why, like, all of a sudden I was just looking up, comedy movies, because I wanted to see something funny, and this kind of came up, and I have to say, like, it is fantastic. It just kind of got released on Hulu, but man, it is both deep and funny, and I just absolutely loved it. Under normal circumstances, I don't think I would have loved it as much, but I don't know, I've just been kind of craving for something that's both funny and, new and things of that nature, but familiar. And this just it just checked off all the right things for me. And so I thoroughly enjoyed it. Also, this movie came out a couple of years ago, but A Monster Calls. I thought that was a good movie. I watched that as well. So, I've kind of, in that sense, I've been, doing creative things, but also feeding myself a little bit creatively, and really kind of taking the time to like, just all things. Because beforehand, like I was, I'd put on some movie that I'd seen like 100 times, or perhaps even a new movie, and I'd just be checking my phone and things of that nature, be distracted on the computer and things like that. And really, if nothing, like the word of last week was just focus, right? I wanted to kind of focus on, and with everything that I did, I just wanted to give it my attention, and it felt a lot better doing that. It really did. And even from, even though I'm highlighting the various creative things that I'm doing, even some of the social justice stuff that I've been, one of the things that I've been trying to really figure out last week of like, what does it mean, and what I can do is kind of international students, and how they're essentially being forced out of the country, with the school systems and kind of how things are. And so even just in terms of how I've been approaching social justice, it gave me a lot more of a focus, and kind of what I can do, and learning about it and things of that nature. So that's kind of my week in a nutshell. Of course, there's other stuff that I did and things of that nature. Nothing exciting in the sense of like going to, bars, or, like what once was quote unquote normal life. But, these are the highlight worthy, if you will. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to join me. If you want to kind of share the things that you're doing creatively in your time, especially right now, I would love to, read about it, converse with you. I know right now it can seem extremely difficult to to be creative. And you know, for me, that certainly is felt. You know, right now I think it's one of those things people say like, oh, you have all this time, you should be able to utilize it. But I think that ignores kind of the greater context of what's happening in the world and whatnot. And so, you know, be as creative as you can be. And if you're not, that's okay too. You know, happy to converse with you and offer any insights or just listen to you, you know, whether in the comment section or hit me up on social media at Svitek. Thank you. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you next time.